So I'm going to start immediately with a highly controversial statement. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, have I just provided some misinformation or disinformation? And you might think that that is a ridiculous question, but let me tell you that we are in an era when politicians and senior bureaucrats cannot answer a question, what is a woman? We are in an era when radical gender activists are saying that there are not two genders, there are any number, 50, 70, 100, and what's more, they're teaching that in the schools and the universities. Is it conceivable that if the government is successful in introducing legislation that provides for misinformation and disinformation, that the statement, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, could be designated as harmful under the Act because it's harmful to a certain group of activists, it's harmful, allegedly, to those who believe in the radical gender theories. So the statement that I made up front, one might think that it is absolutely ridiculous to suggest that saying something like that is misinformation or disinformation, but within the terms of the bill, it is indeed a possibility. There is nothing in the draft bill that would exclude such a sequence. So I'm just going to, by way of introduction, mention two things. I've been asked to give a little bit of a Jewish perspective on free speech, and also because I used to be second in charge of the Australian Medical Association, to give a few comments on a medical perspective. Now you could go on, I won't go on like Alan Jones, I promise, but let me tell you that if you believe in Western civilisation, and this is not to push religion at all, if you believe in Western civilisation, you would understand that it's based on Judeo-Christian values, and the Judeo-Christian values are based on the Jewish values. So if we look at Jewish academic development over the many, many centuries, and it's recorded in major works like the Talmud, it's full of arguments between our sages. One puts this case, another puts the alternate case, proof, counterproof. Sometimes the matter's resolved, sometimes it's not, on a range of subjects which we would have difficulty debating in Australia at the moment, and would become exceedingly more difficult if this legislation came into place. Now, if the opportunity arises, I'll give one or two specific examples when we become a panel. From a medical perspective, I'll just say that we have seen, obviously, during the pandemic, a level of censorship and restriction on doctors, and I must express my profound disappointment with my previous organisation, the Australian Medical Association. I was there when it was good, when it had something like 70% of the doctors as members. It is now down to about 25%. It does not speak for the Australian medical profession anymore. The doctors have voted with their feet. And it's been very distressing to see the loss of things that we used to fight for, which was the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship, professional independence, and a critical medical ethic, which in Latin is called primum non nocere, firstly, do no harm. So I have published a number of articles. I'm one of the authors of The Spectator magazine, which has called out that things like lockdowns were doing more harm than good. Maybe there was an argument for particular restrictions on the frail aged. They very rapidly became known as the most vulnerable. But to impose the restrictions on children, can't go to school, can't go to playgrounds. I think we are seeing a lot of harm in the pipeline, and it will declare itself further. And again, I will give some specific examples when we come to it. So I don't want to take too long on the introduction, and I'd invite David to make his.